A small town in South Carolina is gripped with concern when the entire Carter family suddenly disappears. No one has seen Jason Carter, his wife Danielle, or their 19-year-old daughter Syra for several days. Neighbors are worried, especially since Jason has always been a pillar of the local community, a calm and respectable businessman. The story begins in a quiet suburb of South Carolina, where the Carter family lives. Jason Carter, a 45-year-old charismatic businessman, owns a successful restaurant that's popular with the locals. He is known for his sociability, professionalism, and genuine dedication to his family. Jason creates the image of the perfect husband and father, always smiling and willing to help. His business not only provides a stable income, but also earns him respect in the local community. His wife, Danielle Carter, a 38-year-old housewife, is fully focused on raising her daughter from a previous marriage, Syra. A 19-year-old college student, Syra lives with her parents and is preparing for adult life. For a long time, Danielle was confident in the strength of their marriage. She believed Jason to be a caring husband, despite his frequent late nights at work and occasional trips supposedly related to the restaurant business. Over time, Danielle begins to notice that the relationship between Jason and Syra is becoming increasingly tense and unusual. Syra, usually open and friendly, starts behaving strangely. She stops sharing her problems with her mother, becoming secretive and emotionally distant. Syra often comes home late at night, refuses to talk about where she's been, and spends a lot of time in her room. Jason, too, seems to be paying more attention to Syra than before. He begins to take a deeper interest in her life, defending her in arguments with Danielle. Danielle starts noticing strange glances between them. At first, she chalks it up to Jason being overly protective, but soon her concerns grow. One day, while cleaning Syra's room, Danielle finds some strange notes. These short messages weren't written by her daughter, but contained intimate and disturbingly affectionate phrases, like, "You're the one who makes me feel alive." This alarms her, but Danielle tries to convince herself it could just be teenage flirting. A few days later, she notices that Jason and Syra have been exchanging odd glances. This invisible barrier between them makes her heart race with anxiety. For several nights in a row, Danielle can't sleep, consumed by thoughts of what might be happening in her home. Her mind is filled with frightening scenarios, and she starts paying closer attention to even the smallest details. Syra's solo trips, Jason's constant phone calls when she's gone, all of it intensifies her suspicions. Danielle decides to keep a closer eye on Jason and Syra's behavior, sensing that something unimaginably dark is happening within the family. One late evening, when the tension in the house becomes unbearable, Danielle decides to follow Jason and Syra. She feels she can no longer ignore the oddities in their behavior. Anxiety gnaws at her as she hides in the shadows of the hallway and watches Jason quietly head into Syra's bedroom, closing the door behind him. Around midnight, Danielle creeps up to the door and hears muffled voices. She overhears a conversation that fills her with dread. Syra whispers to Jason, "We have to keep this from everyone. No one can ever find out about our secrets." Danielle freezes in shock. Different scenarios run through her mind, but she isn't ready to believe the worst just yet. After that night, Danielle can't sleep. She starts noticing more and more strange behavior between them. Their glances become even more secretive, and now they avoid being around her. At the same time, these details only heighten her anxiety. She begins to suspect that there's something much darker between Jason and Syra than just secrets. Feeling that the situation has spiraled too far, Danielle finally decides to confront Jason. When she works up the courage to ask questions, his reaction shocks her. Jason meets her suspicions with calmness and even a hint of contempt. He acts as though her accusations are absurd and starts using psychological manipulation. Jason tells Danielle that she's probably just tired or going through a midlife crisis, making her feel irrational. "You're just jealous of Syra because she's growing up and becoming independent," Jason says, adding that Danielle is being overly paranoid and seeing things that aren't there. His cold logic leaves her confused, and Danielle starts doubting herself. Jason twists everything so that her anxiety and suspicions seem like nothing more than jealousy and paranoia. After weeks of sleepless nights and inner turmoil, Danielle decides to dig deeper. She realizes that Jason's words can't explain her feelings and that she needs to take decisive action. One night, while Jason is working late, she decides to check his computer. After cracking his password, she finds a folder protected by another password, sparking her suspicions. Nervously trying several guesses, she finally breaks in. Inside, Danielle finds something that shatters her world. A series of photos and videos capturing horrifying scenes between Jason and Syra. These images reveal intimate interactions between them, leaving Danielle shocked and devastated. This isn't just an affair, it's a complete manipulation and control over her daughter. The videos show Jason using his role as stepfather to psychologically and physically dominate Syra, dragging her into a toxic relationship. Stunned by the discovery, Danielle can't believe her family has fallen apart to this extent. Fear and anger consume her. Jason has betrayed her in the most horrific way, and he has turned out to be a monster, abusing her daughter. In her despair, Danielle begins planning her next steps, realizing she will have to confront not only Jason, but also the dark secrets that now threaten to destroy everything she once knew. After the terrifying discovery of the secret affair between Jason and Syra, Danielle's mind spirals into chaos. She knows she can't just sit idly by. Her daughter needs to be saved. Jason, the man she loved and trusted as the foundation of their family, is a predator. Danielle decides to act quickly and decisively. She begins to develop an escape plan in her mind, envisioning a night escape, fleeing with Syra under the cover of darkness, finding refuge in another town, and starting a new life. She plans everything, packs small suitcases, keeps important documents within reach, and even starts looking for a safe place where Jason won't find them. Danielle is fully convinced that Syra is a victim, and it's her duty to save her daughter from the destructive relationship with her stepfather. But when Danielle shares her escape plan with Syra, her daughter's reaction alarms her. Syra responds with cold indifference, refusing to leave with her mother, questioning her plan, and even mocking her for being so naive. This shocks and frightens Danielle. She can't understand why her daughter doesn't want to break free from Jason. At that moment, she realizes Syra is not as innocent as she seemed. Shortly after her failed attempt to convince Syra to escape with her, Danielle faces an even more horrifying truth. Alone with her daughter, Danielle, under pressure, decides to have an honest conversation. But what she hears shatters everything she thought she knew. Syra isn't just a victim. She willingly entered into this relationship with Jason, intending to use him for her own goals. Her plan all along was to manipulate Jason and destroy their marriage. Syra had harbored resentment against her mother for years of control and domination. Now she has taken matters into her own hands, using her affair with Jason as a tool to tear the family apart. "He thought he was playing with me?" "No, Mom. I'm the one playing with him," Syra says coldly, her eyes blank and icy. Danielle realizes that her daughter has long been out of control. Syra has been manipulating both sides, delighting in the destruction of her mother and stepfather's relationship, all to fully control Jason and rid herself of her mother. For Danielle, this truth is the final blow. Her daughter isn't a victim. She's a participant. Worse, the instigator. Everything Syra has done was calculated from the beginning. After the shocking revelation of Jason and Syra's twisted relationship, Danielle's mind is a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, and despair. She realizes that not only is her daughter involved, but the very foundation of her family has crumbled into darkness. The threat from Jason and Syra looms large, and she knows she must act quickly to protect herself. Determined to save herself and to confront her daughter's dangerous infatuation with Jason, Danielle spends her days plotting her escape. She can no longer trust either of them and knows that they have turned against her. As the realization sinks in that she is trapped in a deadly game, her instincts sharpen. She recognizes that if she doesn't escape soon, they will either destroy her or force her into a life of submission. Late at night, when the house is quiet, Danielle starts gathering her belongings, important documents, cash, and a few personal items. She meticulously plans her escape route, making mental notes of where she can hide until she can find help. In her heart, she knows she can't confront Jason alone. He has become a predator, and she feels vulnerable, knowing that he has been manipulating both her and Syra. As Danielle's determination grows, she becomes aware of the hidden dangers lurking in her home. She starts noticing Jason's increasingly aggressive behavior, his cold, calculating demeanor, and the way he speaks to Syra with an authority that sends chills down her spine. Every interaction between them feels charged with an undercurrent of malice, and it terrifies Danielle to think of what Jason might do if he senses her plans. One evening, after a particularly tense dinner, Danielle overhears Jason and Syra discussing their next steps. Hidden in the shadows of the hallway, she strains to listen, her heart racing as she realizes they are plotting something sinister. The words, "disappear, no one will suspect," and "just like we planned," send icy fingers of fear creeping down her spine. They are fully aware of her growing suspicions, and the danger is more imminent than ever. Knowing that time is running out, Danielle decides to confront Syra again. She hopes to reach her daughter, to remind her of the loving bond they once shared, and to persuade her to leave Jason behind. In an emotional plea, Danielle sits Syra down, her voice shaking as she explains the gravity of the situation. "Syra, he is not who you think he is. He's manipulating you, and he's dangerous," she cries, desperation pouring out of her. But Syra, her eyes cold and dismissive, responds with a chilling calmness. "You don't understand, Mom. He cares about me in a way you never could. You're just jealous and trying to ruin our happiness," she retorts, her voice laced with defiance. Danielle's heart shatters as she realizes that Syra has chosen her path. She has been completely brainwashed by Jason, seeing him as a savior instead of a predator. Feeling the weight of hopelessness, Danielle's resolve strengthens. She understands now that it's not just Jason she must escape from, but Syra too, who is willingly complicit in this horror. If she is to survive, she must leave both of them behind. One fateful night, with the moon high in the sky, Danielle finally decides to act. She can no longer wait for the right moment. She has to create one. Under the pretense of going to bed early, she sneaks out of the house, her heart pounding with adrenaline. The cool night air feels refreshing against her skin, invigorating her spirit. Danielle's plan is to head to the nearest police station. She knows that they will believe her story and help her navigate this nightmare. But as she makes her way down the darkened streets, she can't shake the feeling of being watched. Paranoia creeps in, and the shadows seem to close in around her. Suddenly, she hears footsteps behind her. Panic surges through her, and she starts to run. But as she glances back, she is horrified to see Jason emerging from the darkness, his expression twisted with anger. "Where do you think you're going, Danielle?" he calls out, his voice echoing menacingly through the empty street. With her heart racing, Danielle realizes she's been caught in Jason's trap. He has been waiting for this moment, and now he's intent on stopping her at all costs. She turns to run, adrenaline fueling her every step, but Jason is faster. He lunges for her, grabbing her arm with a grip like iron. "You can't escape me," he hisses, pulling her close. In that moment, Danielle fights back with all her strength, breaking free from his grasp. She pushes past him, her instincts kicking in as she races through the dark alleyways. The fear coursing through her drives her forward, knowing that she must reach safety. But as she runs, she realizes that she is not alone. Syra appears, her face illuminated by the streetlights, blocking Danielle's path. "You can't run away, Mom," she says, her tone icy and resolute. "You're ruining everything." The betrayal in her daughter's eyes cuts deeper than any knife. Danielle feels the walls closing in around her, caught between the two people she once loved the most. She knows this is a pivotal moment, the final confrontation that will determine her fate. "Syra, please, you don't understand what you're doing," she pleads, desperation tinging her voice. But Syra merely shakes her head, her eyes filled with a dark resolve. "No, Mom, you don't understand. Jason is mine now, and I'll do anything to protect him." The twisted loyalty Syra has formed with Jason sends a shiver down Danielle's spine. Realizing the extent of Syra's brainwashing, Danielle steels herself for the fight of her life. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushes past her daughter, trying to escape. In that chaotic moment, Jason lunges again, but this time Danielle is prepared. She dodges him and grabs a nearby metal pipe, wielding it with fierce determination. "Stay back," she warns, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her. She's no longer just a victim. She's a woman fighting for her life. The tension hangs thick in the air as Jason and Syra exchange glances, realizing they've underestimated her resolve. Danielle's heart races as she feels the weight of the moment. In this struggle, she understands that she must not only fight for her survival, but also for Syra's freedom from Jason's manipulation. With her voice filled with emotion, she pleads, "Syra, this isn't love. He's using you. Please, come back to me. We can get through this together." Her words strike a chord, and for a moment she sees a flicker of hesitation in Syra's eyes. But just as hope begins to blossom, Jason steps forward, his expression twisted with rage. "You will regret this, Danielle," he growls, preparing to charge at her. The fight is far from over. It's a desperate struggle for life against those who have turned into her greatest threats. The path ahead is uncertain, but Danielle is resolved to reclaim her life no matter the cost. As the tension mounts in the dimly lit alley, the weight of the moment presses heavily on Danielle's shoulders. She stands poised with the metal pipe clutched tightly in her hands, her breath coming in quick, sharp bursts. Facing Jason, she feels an overwhelming surge of determination. This is no longer just a fight for survival, but a desperate bid to save her daughter from the dark clutches of manipulation and control. "Step back, Jason," Danielle warns, her voice steady, cutting through the charged atmosphere. "You may have twisted Syra's mind, but you will not take me down without a fight." She can feel the heat radiating from Jason's body, his anger palpable. He steps forward, eyes glinting with menace, but she stands her ground. The sight of her daughter beside him ignites a new wave of fear and anger. "Mom, you're making a mistake," Syra pleads, her voice a mixture of defiance and desperation. "Jason loves me. You're just jealous of what we have." The words stab at Danielle's heart, her daughter's loyalty to a monster tearing at the very fabric of their relationship. Danielle takes a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Syra, love doesn't mean being controlled. You're not happy. You're trapped. Open your eyes and see who he really is." She can see the conflict in Syra's eyes, a flicker of doubt breaking through the fog of loyalty that Jason has woven around her. But Jason is quick to counter, moving dangerously close. "Don't listen to her, Syra. She's just trying to ruin our happiness." "You know I would do anything for you," he says, his tone smooth and convincing as he reaches for Syra's arm. "We're a family now. You need to stand with me against her." Danielle feels a surge of adrenaline, realizing she needs to break the spell that Jason has cast over Syra. "Jason is a liar. He's been using you this whole time." She steps forward, brandishing the pipe, feeling a rush of empowerment. "I won't let him control you anymore. You're stronger than this. Get away from her." Jason snarls, his voice dripping with venom. In a flash, he lunges at Danielle, but she sidesteps with practiced agility. The alley echoes with the clatter of the pipe as she swings it, narrowly missing him. For a moment there is silence, and all three of them are frozen in a standoff. Syra's eyes dart between her mother and Jason, confusion etched on her face as she grapples with the stark reality that is unfolding before her. Danielle seizes the opportunity, knowing this may be her only chance to reach Syra. "Listen to me, sweetheart. Love is not about control. It's about freedom and trust. Jason is not your savior. He is your captor." Tears well in Danielle's eyes as she takes a step closer to her daughter, the desperation in her voice making it clear just how serious she is. "Mom, stop," Syra shouts, her expression twisted in anguish. "You don't know what you're talking about." But even as she speaks, Danielle notices the uncertainty creeping into Syra's voice. It's a flicker of hope that ignites a fire within her. "Syra, look at me," Danielle pleads, desperation coloring her tone. "I love you more than anything in this world. I would never hurt you. Can't you see that he's trying to tear us apart?" In that moment, something shifts in Syra's eyes. The fog of Jason's manipulation seems to lift, if only for a second. I just wanted to be happy," she stammers, the conflict within her evident. "I thought he was the answer." "Happy? This isn't happiness, Syra," Danielle cries, her heart racing with urgency. "You're losing yourself in this. You're being used, and you need to break free." The intensity of her words hangs heavy in the air, filled with an aching truth that resonates deep within Syra. Just as it seems that Syra might turn back, Jason interjects, his voice low and menacing. "You're wrong, Danielle. Syra is happy with me. You're just an obstacle in our way. He takes a menacing step toward Danielle, his eyes flashing with malice. I will not let you destroy what we've built. Danielle feels a shiver run down her spine at the darkness in his words. She knows he is capable of terrible things, and the fight is far from over. With renewed strength, she holds the pipe firm, ready to defend herself and her daughter at all costs. You're not going to win this, Jason. I refuse to let you hurt us any longer. With that declaration, the tension snaps like a taut string. Jason lunges once more, and this time Danielle is ready. She swings the pipe with all her might, connecting with his shoulder and causing him to stumble backward. Stay away from me, she shouts, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Syra's eyes widen in shock, torn between the man she thought she loved and the mother who was fighting for her life. In that moment of chaos, she feels the weight of the decision pressing down on her. She takes a hesitant step back, uncertainty flickering in her gaze as she processes the reality of the situation. Jason, I don't want this, she finally whispers, her voice trembling. Jason's face contorts in rage at Syra's words. You can't mean that. I love you. His facade of control is cracking and desperation spills from him. We can be a family. Just listen to me. No, Syra replies, her voice rising in defiance. I don't want this anymore. You're not what you seem. The conflict in Syra is palpable, and as Jason steps forward in a last-ditch effort to regain control, she takes a bold step toward her mother. I choose my mom, she declares, a tremor of resolution in her voice. In that instant, Danielle feels a rush of relief wash over her, but it's quickly overshadowed by Jason's fury. He lunges once again, but this time it's Syra who stands in his path. Don't you dare hurt her, she screams, the transformation in her demeanor stunning both Danielle and Jason. Syra, get back, Danielle warns, but her daughter stands firm, the bond of blood and love surging back to life. With an anguished roar, Jason reaches out, but Danielle, fueled by the protection of her daughter, swings the pipe one final time, striking Jason with all the strength she can muster. He staggers back, the realization of his defeat dawning on him. As Jason crashes to the ground, the fight leaves him, and he looks up at them, a mix of disbelief and rage etched on his features. You think you've won? He growls, the shadows of his defeat creeping in. This isn't over. But Danielle knows differently. The power of their bond has triumphed over the darkness. It's over for you, Jason, she replies, her voice steady and filled with conviction. In that moment, as Jason lays on the ground defeated, Syra rushes to her mother's side, wrapping her arms around her. I'm so sorry, Mom, she sobs, the walls of manipulation crumbling around her. Danielle holds her daughter tightly, tears of relief and love flowing freely. It's okay, sweetheart. We'll get through this together, she whispers, knowing that they have a long road ahead, but for now, they are free from Jason's grasp. As they stand together in the fading darkness, the first light of dawn begins to break through the night. The warmth of the sun washes over them, symbolizing a new beginning. They have fought against the odds and emerged victorious, united in their love and resilience. Danielle knows the journey ahead will not be easy, but together, they will heal and reclaim their lives. They will rebuild their shattered bond, stronger than before, as they step into the new day, ready to face whatever comes next. The confrontation reaches its peak as Danielle must decide whether to fight or flee. Jason lunges at her, and Syra stands by, reveling in the chaos. In that moment of desperation, Danielle manages to outmaneuver them, breaking free and racing down the forest path. She knows she must escape this nightmare. With tears streaming down her face, Danielle sprints towards the lights of a distant highway, desperate for help. In her heart, she knows this is a fight for her life, a chance to escape the twisted game her family has played. As she reaches the road, she sees headlights approaching. Danielle runs into the road, waving her arms desperately, praying for salvation. The car screeches to a halt, and the driver jumps out, a look of horror on their face. Are you okay? What happened? They ask, rushing to her side. With a trembling voice, Danielle recounts her terrifying story. The driver, shocked, immediately calls for the police, and soon sirens echo in the distance. Just as the realization of her narrow escape sinks in, she knows she is no longer a victim. She is a survivor. As the police arrive, and the chaos of the night begins to settle, Danielle knows that her journey is far from over. She must now navigate the complexities of her fractured family, seeking justice for the betrayals she has endured. The road ahead will be difficult, but for the first time in a long time, she feels a flicker of hope. As she stands by the road, watching the flashing lights illuminate the darkness, she realizes that she will reclaim her life, not only for herself, but for Syra. She must ensure her daughter understands the depths of manipulation and the dark path she has taken. With newfound determination, Danielle begins to make plans for her future, counseling for both herself and Syra, a fresh start away from the shadows of the past. Her story may have begun in betrayal, but it will end with strength and resilience, transforming pain into power as she steps boldly into a new chapter of her life.